Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strauss Lawrence, and I'm a bereavement specialist. Hi, how are we doing today?
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Susan. Hi, Vicki.
What a
Susan,
great day. What a great day today. And my name is Susan Caperso. I'm an end-of-life doula, and I specialize in creative legacy work. So we are so happy today. We're happy to
welcome.
introduce our guest, to welcome our guest, Vicki. And Lisa, you'd like to tell us a little bit about Vicki?
Sure. I just want to say that I have known Vicki Ellner for so many years through
Oh,
so
nice.
many of our professions and all. It's wonderful to have you back. So it's a pleasure to introduce you to everyone. Vicki has extensive experience in marketing, community outreach, business development, and government affairs in the healthcare, home care, and elder law arenas. She has demonstrated leadership abilities evidenced by spearheading community initiatives with successful results in the not-for-profit and for-profit sectors. Trained as a nurse, she soon found her vocation as an advocate for the disabled and the elderly. She has worked tirelessly on their behalf. She's recognized as an authority on navigating the healthcare eldercare maze and is often invited to speak by business groups and not-for-profits in the New York metro area. An effective moderator and facilitator, she has conceptualized, coordinated, and presented informative programs on pertinent issues designed to educate professionals and consumers. Her multifaceted career includes being the founder of Door to Door, Doc, and Elder Factor, a physician nurse-led patient advocacy service, is the antidote to confusion, frustration, and challenges in the healthcare and eldercare maze that plagues patients and families. Welcome, Vicki.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was
Pretty
wonderful.
impressive. And I've known you for all those things. You do an amazing job for people.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, we do go back to, if I remember correctly, it's somewhere around the late 1990s,
The
right?
not-for-profit
So,
arena. That's correct. That's correct.
yes. So,
But today you're here to share some information for people who are going through what you have gone through. We'll let you speak about your own losses.
okay, thank you. So, it's very interesting. I always say I'm very proud to come from a wonderful family, three older brothers. We grew up together. There was 10 years between myself, who was the oldest, and I was the youngest. And, you think about your life as you're, going through your different phases, the schools and then marriages and then children and then whatever, life brings you. And the sibling relationship is something that is really uniquely very special. Those of you who have sibling relationships might be able to relate to that. And when you get to then that, that third stage of your life where things are starting to look differently for you, or your time is dedicated to different things, you think of yourselves as uh, you know uh, reenacting your life through the people who really know you well the best, or at least they think they do anyway. My story is, unfortunate, with a very unfortunate situation that started last year with COVID. March of 2020 changed our lives dramatically. I remember the last time I was in the restaurant was actually March 13th of 2020. I said to my better half, should we be here? Next thing I know, lockdowns and everything else. My oldest brother, who had health problems, lived out in the Midwest. At the beginning of 2020, he went into a long-term care facility out there. He could no longer live on his own, which in itself has implications, a dramatic change of life, etc. But he was doing reasonably well considering what was going on. And then on or about November, third week in November, as the intensity of COVID became rampant, and we started to hear of all these deaths and stuff like that. And what happened to me was the fears that I had became a reality, in as much as I lost a brother to COVID. He passed on Thanksgiving Day of 2020. Thanksgiving was my favorite holiday. I don't know if I will ever be again, at least in that way. And he died alone in the bed with a hospice nurse on his side when he was not able to see family or friends for a long period of time. Once the lockdown came, it was really a very, very tragic experience, for the family. It's hard enough to lose somebody, and I'm a nurse, no stranger to death, and supporting people, guiding people, etc., through that process when necessary. But when you pass or you're sick, unless it's a sudden experience, what do we have in our life? We have our families, the people that we love, who could hold our hand, could be there by our side, could talk to each other. As a matter of fact, they say that hearing is the last sense that we lose when we're going through that process. How do they know that? Because there have been cases of people who have gone, have had near-death situations, or they're in a coma, and if they are lucky enough to come out of it, they can recall things that have been said to them that they couldn't possibly know unless they recall it. So, but that was not the case with my brother. His name was Larry. He was, he died so quickly, and and it was really a horrific situation.
Vicki, I want to interrupt you 1 second. And
Sure.
we're so appreciative for you being here today, because this is something that we've heard about, right, all along, but I think from a little bit of a distance. Not everybody knows of somebody who experienced something like this, and you went through it firsthand. And we thank you for sharing, your story with us today.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
such
you
a
for saying
difficult
that.
situation.
Yeah, it is a very difficult situation. And losing somebody that you love is never easy, right? It's a difficult process. And what do we have, on the other side, we have memories and etc. that we hold dear. I think the COVID experience, certainly, as we watched every single day and heard numbers and stories and thought about it, and were scared and were frightened and didn't know, couldn't leave our houses, basically. And certainly our lives have been changed even till today. Our lives are not back to where they were, prior to the pandemic infiltrating our lives. This is, this, you never say it's, or you never think, what if it happens to me? So I have to tell you, I wake up every day with a sense of unreality to it. And grieving is, first of all, I have to say, grief is the price you pay for love. You can't get away from it. It really is the truth. And, and that will never stop. How I balance it the rest of my life, etc., will be incumbent upon how I can handle it at any given time. And there are days that are more difficult than others. His birthday was March 15th. He would have been 80 years old, actually, on March 15th of this year. I'm of the Jewish faith, and because we didn't have a formal service for him, that's another story. We didn't have a formal service for him. We usually light a candle on what's called the yahrzeit of their death, which is the day that they died. It changes all the time because of the Jewish calendar, but I don't know that. So so this year I lit a candle for him on his birthday. The whole situation, relevant to this is the lack of control. Every day, I'd say every day I feel like I have something screaming inside of me that only I can hear. And if you've lost somebody that you love, maybe you can understand that, and commiserate with it. It was very interesting. One day I was watching, about a month or so after my brother passed away, I was watching the Today Show, and there was a rabbi. His name is Steve Leder. He's actually the head rabbi of the Wilshire Boulevard Synagogue, Wilshire Boulevard Temple out in Los Angeles. He wrote a book. It's called The Beauty of What Remains. And he talked about his dad. And, I equate this to the doctor who gets sick, but he really feels, oh my God, I've treated people all these years. Now I know what it's like to be sick. Well, he had a situation with his dad where he lost his father twice, once to Alzheimer's, and then once when he passed. And it changed his whole perspective of what it's like. And he supported and counseled and guided so many people. And I was so touched by by what he said. And in my business life, I do programming. And I said, you know what? I have got to get this rabbi to speak with my client on a webinar. And I did. And we actually did this in June of this year. We welcomed him as a guest, and then through the magic of what I also call Jewish geography, it just so happens that my husband's daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter are congregants of his. So it cut down the pitching and the prospecting and the pestering, very much so. And he wrote this book, and I recommend it to people who are going through loss. It's called The Beauty of What Remains, because he puts a perspective. It's a very poignant and very emotional read. And when we talk about grieving, the one thing I like to say about grieving, and as a person who's been trained in nursing and has gone through the different types of the education of grieving and loss, we talk about Kubler-Ross, who talks about the 5 stages of grieving, right? I know, Lisa, you're shaking your head, and I know what you do, and certainly Susan, you as well are familiar with that. The reality of it is, it's not so defined to go through 5 stages, where first it's denial, or it's anger, or it's or it's acceptance. And truthfully, I have to tell you, I don't think I'll ever be so self-actualized where I will be accepting of what happened. I might be accepting of the lessons that it's learned and what it's taught me and how it guides me the rest of my life, but not relevant to the passing of my brother. Definitely not. I'll never accept it. That doesn't make me any more or any less of a person. It just makes me, a loving, caring sister who had this amazing brother who was handsome and charming, a great dancer, great stories. And just to be in his presence was enjoyable. In business, we actually, my father owned a company, and we were both on the sales end. So we traveled a lot together. And I spent a lot of time with him. And our other 2 brothers, our other 2 siblings, actually moved out to the Midwest. So we were the 2 New York-based Ellner siblings. So we bonded on that. And it's just been it's been a very, very difficult time. And I probably said that quite a few times here. And I wish I had such sage advice for people who are going through an experience like this. And I know we want to focus in on COVID and how that has played out. And how has it played out? Let's think about it. It's played out in whether you are somebody passed at home, and certainly, people in the prime of their lives, unexpectedly, one minute they're living their lives, next minute they know they have gotten a virus that is deadly, and also the incidence of it happening in nursing homes. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that, especially since my brother passed in that type of environment. 1/3 of the people who have passed from COVID have passed in a long-term care facility. That is pretty substantial, and really raise your eyebrow. As well as, and I understand from a recent statistic, and this is also pretty mind-blowing, that 5% of people who have passed from COVID are over the age of 50. So, all those statistics that are coming at us, day in and day out. And what are we doing now? Okay, we have a vaccination. So, whether you choose or not to choose, we have 2 sides of the coin relevant to that. And that's being played out in many different ways. It's being played out personally, when people say, I'm going to get vaccinated, or they're not, and what are the reasons? I'm vaccinated. I got vaccinated back in January. My second dose was in February. Now I will definitely get a booster. There's no question about it. I would have done it even if I didn't lose somebody that I love so much. That's my personal feeling about it, and of course also be somebody who's in healthcare and could potentially be exposed in different environments, etc. I want to be protected, and as well as protect others for it. So yeah, COVID is a pretty rotten thing, and it's not over.
I would say, Vicki, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Sure.
Both Lisa and I have suffered a lot of loss. Okay. And it's really, really painful, really, really overwhelming. And you go through all the different emotions. But I would think that having suffered it during this particular time in the world adds an element of anger.
Yeah.
Would add an element of anger to this, more so. I mean, we all go through anger at different times of a loss, of course. But through this time, I would think it's just bitterness and anger that you're holding on to. Not necessarily you, but I'm saying, I'm just trying to imagine what that would feel like for me.
Yeah. So there's no question, and anger is one of our stages, right? There's anger attached. There's no question about it. For relevant to a lot of different reasons, whether they be personal, political, societal, etc. That vacillate day to day. I actually have been working with a not-for-profit that we did a program back in May called Honoring Nursing Home Lives. I was part of that. I spoke on that as well. It was probably one of the most, talk about anger, it was probably one of the most painful experiences that I've ever had to do, to be honest with you. And this is not easy either. But I feel that maybe if somebody could listen to what I have to say and relate to it, or feel that, gee whiz, that they were moved by it in some way, or that they can understand the position that somebody takes who has lost somebody through a situation like this, that it has a ripple effect. You throw a stone out there and it kind of spreads out exponentially, and say, okay, other people are going through this. This is a real thing. But loss, whether it's during this time or whether it's for whatever reasons, and I understand, of course, that you both have experienced losses. Well, doesn't that make you angry anyway? Essentially, even if there's a reality to it. I mean, I've lost both of my parents. I described that my father died when he was 84 years old. The last birthday that he was alive for was in 2001. And I was in Florida, and he said to me, he goes, I feel like I'm on borrowed time. So you know what I said to him? I said to him, Daddy, we're all on borrowed time. And really, it sounds kind of somber and bizarre, but really, isn't that true? So the anger part of it, I try to reconcile it, because I don't want to be an angry person. I want to be angry specifically about the situation, but I don't think I would be doing myself, my family that remains, the people that I interface with, my friends, my puppies. Okay. I don't think that I would be doing anybody any good if I walked around angry all the time.
And that's very healthy. That's very healthy to think of it that way.
Yeah, because I am by nature a very grateful and joyful person. And I'll tell you what, I am very grateful and joyful that I did have my brother the years that I had him. So, and nobody can ever take that away from me. And I had this experience recently, and I'll share it with you. I was on the phone with somebody who told me a story about losing. Well, he told me, I'll get to he lost his wife, but they changed roles in their professionally. And he told me he was talking to his wife, and they were talking about death. And his wife said to him, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of being forgotten. And I thought, really, how telling is that, for all of us, right? Of the people that we touch, the lives that we intermingle with, and the people that we love and everything else, that we don't forget them. And because their souls live on through us. So
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And I specialize in the storytelling and leaving the books behind, because in essence, we're all the ancestors today. And our
Mhm.
future generations are not going to know about us if we don't
Mhm.
start putting some things down.
Yes.
And
You
that's
know
why I
what?
do same thing for me, in bereavement and grieving. I tell people, celebrate that person's life, celebrate the memories you have, do special things that they would be doing with you, talk about them all the time. So we all are on the same page about always remembering the people, whether they're with us physically or not. So important.
It really is so important. And there is no question that the work that you do, and Susan, and really, cataloging, so to speak, somebody's life is so important, because you know what? When somebody passes, their memories go with them, their experiences go with them. If you don't know that, you cannot retell those stories. And, we're fortunate that we have stories that we can tell now, between remaining family members. But you know what? I also know that many things also are now in a space that has no
They are.
cloud that we can reach, for
My
sure.
husband was the biggest storyteller around, and funny, and had the
Yeah.
whole room in stitches all the time, even sitting home here on the couch.
Mhm.
He was funny, but yet his stories are just, there were too many, and I could never repeat them or say them in his
Mm.
tone or like he tells them. And they're gone with him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something my mom did when she was in New York. My mother came up, my mother lived the last couple of years mostly in New York here, because she has some physical problems, and we got her medical care up here. And when she started to write the story of her life in her own hands. But my mother had terrible arthritis. And she got to the point where she told this whole story about herself up until the point where she met my dad, and she couldn't, and she never completed it. I mean, I really wish she had, and I really wish I had the forethought with the mind to say, you know what, Mom, I'll write it out for you, or I'll type it, or something like that. But it's the part that she got up to, which is really cute, is that my father, who was 6'1", big strapping guy, he would go to her house. They met when they were 16 years old, and he would go to her apartment to pick her up. And her mother would say, my grandmother would say to her, "Oh, puppy love is here." So I mean, that frames your family in a whole different way. So yeah, there's no question that there's so much value. And I find at this point in my life, thinking about, well, what will I do with either my story or my pictures, which, by the way, we were lucky in as much that we didn't have a lot of pictures of us when we were younger, because we had a terrible fire in our family home in Massapequa, not too long after we moved in, and a lot of the pictures were lost in that fire. But we had enough that we did not have a formal ceremony or service of my brother. What we did was we had a Zoom like remembrance thing where I had a slideshow done of pictures of the family, that included my brother. We spoke on it, and family and friends joined us, and that was pretty cathartic, I have to say. It was done very nicely. Zoom used to be a 4-letter word. Now it's a way of life, so to speak. I mean, we're talking on it right now. That was really a comfort, I have to say. So as I progress with my story, and as inconceivable as it sounds, that having to deal with, first my brother's passing, and really not getting to the point where it's reconciled in any way that's up to completion. I find myself very unfortunate to have to tell you that I lost another brother recently. So 2 weeks ago, the youngest of my three brothers, he'd been having some physical problems. He'd been in and out of hospitals, short-term rehabs. He was discharged from the hospital on September 17th. And 9 days later, it was on Monday, whatever, 2 weeks ago on Monday, whatever that date was, he passed. If I tell you how raw this feels right now and horrific, it's almost unspeakable, to be honest with you, that to lose two brothers in 10 months. And for that, I don't know if I'll ever be the same, to be honest with you. So I have one surviving brother, and and all related families. But the foundation of my life, growing up, and my visions of us being around for at least 10, 20 more years together, is obviously not going to be realized. It's very unfortunate. It's a very sad time in my life, I have to tell you. It is very, very tragic. And
we are so sorry for your loss, Vicki.
Yeah.
And it being so recent like this. I know that people, don't even know what to say, what to do, how to respond. For me, the worst was when people ignored that it even happened. I want people to say, thinking about you. You don't have to say, how do you feel? I'm thinking about you. But when they don't know what to say and then they do nothing, that really hurt me the most. And then after a month going to an affair and his name never being mentioned, that was equally hard for me. People think they're doing the right thing, but they're actually not. So the compassion of people, and I understand people want to say the right thing, but it's more than that. It's just feeling for somebody, and saying, I'm so sorry you're going through such a horrible loss. That's all it takes. But people don't even know to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what, people are, I agree with you, but I also know that people are uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They're uncomfortable with the element of death, dying, and they also personalize it, and they think that if they don't talk about it, that it's not going to happen to them, like as if they get some kind of, like, I don't know, a shield around them.
Yeah.
I happen to work, one of my clients I work with is an elder law attorney. So he does wills, trusts, estates, etc. And how many times have we heard people, think that they don't do a will because if they don't do the will, nothing will happen to them.
Right.
It's like some kind of, you have a shield on you. It really is quite amazing.
So Vicki, how do you get through each day? How do you wake up each day and say, okay, I'm putting one step forward and I'm going through the day? How do you do that, especially after everything you and your family have been through?
Every morning I get up and it's like hitting a wall every single morning. It's like reliving it over and over and over again. I take pause, reflection, yes, anger and remembrance and disbelief. I really do. I kind of go through all those things every single day. And there have certainly been times, and very recently, where it almost is like I felt like I wanted to pick up the phone. My brother Richard was my brother who just passed very recently, and tell him something. I'm sure that'll happen. You get that feeling. The other thing I say is that, the two people who could help me the most aren't around either, and that's my mother and father. So being a spiritual person, I am very much a spiritual person. And I do believe that, our spirits, transcend whatever happens going forward. That I, envision that my parents and my brothers are together with other family members. In what form, I don't know. But I their spirit surrounds me for sure. That's the other side of it. They live within inside of me every single day. So, whether it's talking about them like this or, silent reflection, talking to friends. Yesterday, I happened to be on the phone with a very close friend of mine. I've been friends with her for 58 years. So we've known each other a long time. And, so we're able to talk about it. And, she's had her losses as well. That is very comforting.
It's
It is
almost
very
like
comforting.
one day at a time.
Yeah, it's one day
One
at a
day at a
time.
time and get
Mhm.
through that next day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
finding the people who understand and who love you and who are there to just be there. That's it. I care about you and I care about how you're feeling. I care about what you've been going through. So important.
yeah, and I feel wounded. I know, and that's kind of like the physical pain. I definitely feel like, I'm wounded, and I don't expect that will ever change, to be honest with you. Yeah. So,
There was there was a picture that we put up a while ago, and it really resonated with me. And see what you think about it. Everybody says, so over time, grief gets smaller and smaller. So it shows this jar, and it shows grief being a big part in the jar, and then it gets smaller and smaller to a small, little. Well, that isn't the way it is. Okay. So you have this jar and grief is in the jar. Now, grief stays the same, but your jar of life becomes bigger and you build the rest of your life. But grief is always there, it doesn't disappear. It's just that your life goes on. You
mhm,
move on, obviously, never the same, but you find a way to live your life the rest of your life. But grief
mhm,
didn't disappear. It's still part of you. It's just that your life now, takes over and becomes different. Nothing is
mhm,
ever the same. I mean, Susan and I know that, I mean, not only just spouses, but other people in our lives. Nothing is ever the same. But we build our lives in the best way we can, and move on
mhm.
as best we
Yes.
can. As best we can. Yeah.
So this is what I'm kind of dreading. I'm dreading this Thanksgiving for two reasons. Number one, it'll be, the anniversary, so to speak, of my brother Larry's passing. And it just so happens it would have been my brother Richard's 74th birthday.
Oh, wow.
So I am like dreading that
So,
day, just
so
dreading
So
the,
let me make a suggestion in the
please.
bereavement area. Okay. I'm really big, and Susan's seen this too. I'm really big into celebrations and into remembrances. So I say to people all the time, well, what kinds of things did they eat? What kinds of things did they love? What kinds of things show that they're with you? And I've done that so many times with celebrations, and of course firsts are really big. And so think about what made those celebrations, because of what they just serve, what they love to eat. Okay.
Mhm.
Or do something that they always did. Passover story. I mean, my father always turned a, a grapefruit into a yarmulke. Okay. I mean, you'd appreciate that, and I'm telling you, when I have a grapefruit, I just, think about that. So
Yeah.
that's how you bring them, there with you.
Mhm,
And not that it's a substitute, but it really does keep them alive with you, you know?
mhm.
So think about that. Think about how
Yeah.
Thanksgiving was special because of certain things that they said or did or loved, or ate or whatever. Because
Toasting them, lighting candles, maybe a reading, maybe
Yeah.
a special reading about the two of them, or a story that the three of you shared,
Mhm.
would be really a nice way to honor them.
And plan it, Vicki, okay?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so whether it's going to be with other friends or other people or whatever it is, but plan it. The process going into it always is larger and more challenging than when it actually happens, but plan it out so that you feel that there's some control over what you've chosen to do.
Mhm.
Okay.
That
Good
was nice,
advice.
Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. My brother Richard, who had been in the hospital for for weeks before he was discharged and then ultimately passed away, but he would complain bitterly about the food. Yeah, food's terrible. The food's terrible. Like who doesn't complain about hospital food? So I said to him, you know what, Rich, I said, when you get out, I couldn't send it to him while he was in the hospital because of dietary restrictions. I said, well, you know what, when you get out of the hospital, I'm going to send you a salami. So I had all ready to send him a Hebrew national
National
salami.
salami.
Love
Yes,
it.
So you better have that
That
salami.
could be something.
That's right. You
there
better
you
have
Get
that
go.
that
salami at
salami and put it
Thanksgiving.
on a pretty
That's the
platter and
truth.
saying, this is for you.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a sense. My brother Larry was a great raconteur. He, was such a great storyteller and an amazing. I'm going to call him a salesperson, but he was really different than just your typical salesperson because of his personality and the respect that people had for him. But years ago, there was a restaurant that he loved in Amityville. It was Amato's. Maybe people listening will remember that. A great Italian restaurant. And every time he had a client that he wanted to take, he would take him to Amato's. So he calls up Amato's one day and he says, I'd like to make a reservation for two people at 1:00. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ellner, we don't have a reservation open, at that time. And he said, wait, he goes, he goes, I absolutely need to be there at 1:00 with a client. This is, Larry Ellner. And he goes, I can't help you. He goes, well, wait a minute. He goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, if Bill Clinton called you up and said, I'm going to be at your restaurant at 1:00. I need a table for two. Would you have a table for me? And he said, and the maitre d' says, of course. He goes, well, I'll tell you. He goes, I have it on good authority. Bill Clinton's not going to be there. I'll take his table. So it's a true story. And he got his
Wow.
table, by the way.
Wow.
So that kind of gives you a little bit of insight into his creativity. He was
And
he was a
persistence.
he was an amazing guy. My brother, well, all of us are distinctly different, which is nice. We should all have different personalities. But Richard equally memorable. I always call him like kind of like a Peter Pan. He kind of had that kid inside of him his whole life. Always loved to go and do, and he was just amazing. I have amazing brothers. I really do. And I can't even talk about them as had because, they still are very much a part of me and
That's
part of
right.
my
That's
family.
right.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. The
That's
stories
how
are
you,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And keep remembering all those stories and keep telling them
Yeah.
because they put smiles on your face.
And something else, Vicki, that you can do is you can put together. This would be nice for you right now. Some type of a storybook with photos, with just memories, little memories and thoughts about them, a few experiences that you've had along the way. And this could be a keepsake for you. And
Mhm.
it's an important time, I think, for you to do that when everything's right there. The memories are right there for you.
And
Mhm.
one more thing, I really like online memorials. It happened when my daughter lost a very dear friend, and he was really young. He was 23 years old. And I don't think he intended to die, but he did. He was really just not careful. Anyway, so she found out that there was an eternal portal site that
Mhm.
you could put an online memorial. And when my husband died, and only a month later, I started investigating what that would mean and how much it would cost and all that. It's very affordable. And it's lovely to be able to go to a place where I can journal. People can write in the guest book. They can put virtual flowers and virtual candles in.
Mhm.
And I have the whole memorial service in there. I mean, you can make it however you
Vicki,
want, but it's a personal place to go and that other people. So on his birthday and other holidays and all, I share the site again and have other people go to it. It just for me, it's, I know people go to graves, people go and do whatever comforts them, but
Mhm.
this for me is something that really keeps him, with
And that might be a perfect solution, not a
That is,
solution, but a choice that you can do to celebrate them. And Lisa used to talk about it, and I really didn't get the full extent, the full gist of it. So we did create a YouTube video. It's on the channel if you want to go back and watch it. And it's just about the portal. And
mhm,
she shows us, the different things that you can do. And after that video that we did, I find it really, really extremely helpful. And I've told a few people about it since then.
mhm.
It might be helpful for you.
Yeah, that
And again,
sounds really amazing. I'll
as you
definitely look into.
yeah, as you said, everybody grieves differently, and
Mhm,
everybody finds what helps them or helps them cope and all. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because there's no there's no recipe here.
mhm,
It's very personal, and we're all trying to do the best we can to live without the people we love. This isn't
mhm.
what we all planned. This is
Right.
not what we thought it would be. And yet we each have figured out, how we have to move on with our lives. And by the way, how our loved ones would want us to move on as well.
Mhm. Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
That is true.
yeah,
Yeah, it's yeah, what a great suggestion. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
sure.
You're welcome. And Vicki, tell us a little bit about what you do
Yes,
in your career.
yes.
So I love this question. I've had a lot of careers.
You have, you have. So have I.
They've all been, I've embraced them all. They've brought me to where I am today. No, um, I became a nurse in my 40s. I went back to school for nursing in my 40s. I really did. I had an amazing career before that, but I just got tired of not doing something that I felt was meaningful, that spoke to my core, that brought me some kind of it's not the word isn't joy, but I wanted to do something that was really
Something
meaningful
fulfilling
and fulfilling.
that you were passionate about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So I go back to school and I become a nurse, and I want to be an OR nurse. So the reality of it is that what it's like doing hospital nursing in your 40s. You have to be in your 20s to do that, really, I have to tell you. So I was drawn to, and not expectedly, and not something that I ever expected to be doing. I actually did most of my nursing with the special needs population. First, I worked in the school through BOCES system, which was an amazing experience. I worked at the Carmen Road School, where children from babies up until they're 21 years old, when after they're 21, they have to be mainstreamed into other programs. And oh my God, what I found there was, not the, oh my God, the tragedy or the stories that broke your heart. No, what I found there was a calling that I didn't even know I had. And every day that I was in that school, and the principal in that school, a man by the name of Frank Lombardi, may he rest in peace, he spread this magic dust every day because of the person he was, that you felt that you were in the most amazing place on the planet. And, because of me, kids who were not able to go on school trips were able to, because I was willing to accompany them, or day trips or anything else, because they had significant medical needs, a portion of them. So I left there, and then I worked for AHRC in different programs. First in their the ICF, which was it was a 48 bed facility in Plainview, and they put me in the most medically challenged house. And I will tell you, oh my God, once again, it just continued the saga. And then, but the other thing I have to say is that because I traveled most of my career up until then, I said, I'm never going to travel again. Never say never. But anyway, that's another story. So I had this amazing experience working with the special needs population, which really formed me for my ultimate future, because I did digress, went back into working in different environments, up to and including I was a marketing director for a home care agency in Brooklyn. And that was one of the steps that really changed my life, because in addition to the job that I was doing, I started a not-for-profit that I ran for almost 20 years. And that's what got me into advocating and for our elderly and our senior and our aging population, which I very much am embedded in still to this day. I advocate for senior issues, funding, programming, and whether I'm working with a not-for-profit or I'm working for when I'm doing my door-to-door doc stuff for Elder Factor, where I'm helping people navigate through the healthcare maze, doing house calls, we've done that as well. So it's been a wonderful experience. And about 3 years ago, because of some health problems I had, and I'm fine, by the way, I decided I put my not-for-profit on hiatus. Excuse me. And I really thought about retiring. And you know, and that as I started to feel a little bit better, I said, you know, maybe I'll do something. I wasn't really clear. And as time went by and I started to like go out again into, you know, like a network, and I said, you know what, I'm not done yet. All right. Actually, I want to start a whole thing about a movement with not done yet. I'm just not done yet. I still have that fire inside of me. I still feel very much a calling, whether it's with, you know, seniors, something in healthcare. So now what I'm doing is I dedicate my time proportionately. I work as a outreach and government affairs consultant because of my years in the not-for-profit arena. I've developed a lot of contacts, and I have a partner in that business. So we help people. You know, it ranges whether there's strategic planning, whether they have to navigate through the political arena. It's quite diversified, actually. I also am working with a not-for-profit, Gray Panthers, New York City chapter. And one of the things they are doing, and how I was drawn to them, was through this video program that they did in May. So I'm doing some community organizing with them, and they're very much into nursing home transformation, which in of itself, as you can imagine, is a big issue. And the advocacy. So I am so, like, every day is so fulfilling, I have to tell you. And I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at this point. And what I love most about it is that most of what I'm doing, I do on flexible. And, you know, at my age, at this point in my life, you know, the ability to say, gee whiz, you know what, I'm not going to work Wednesday morning. Or pre-COVID, I used to say, gee whiz, Wednesday I'll go in and I'll go to a show, although I know Broadway opens again. You know, it gives me a lot of flexibility. So I'm really in a good place professionally. I'm enjoying what I'm doing, either meeting new people or working with the same people I've been working with for years, you know, interacting with you in this capacity. Lots of Zoom calls. The virtual world is, I maintained a home office for so many years. So this is not so unusual for me, although Zoom was something that I had to be acclimated towards. But I think Zoom will definitely survive once we really go back to whatever our normal will be in the future. So, you know, I'm an advocate. I say I'm somebody who is fighting the big fight every day. Whether, especially for seniors. And I'll tongue in cheek tell you that when I started my organization, when I was in my 50s, I said, you know what? I'm going to fight the big fight for different issues related to our aging population. And you know what? I've become that population. So I believe the foundation and the groundwork for some of the things that are happening. And I sit on the board of directors of a very wonderful organization, New York Statewide Senior Action Council, and on the Public Policy Committee. So I very much have a hand in this. So I feel very, I'm repeating myself, fulfilled and meaningful in the work that I do every day.
Great work. Do me a favor, do us a favor, please give us all your contact information, okay, so that everybody hears it.
Okay, so my phone number, we still have phones. They're 516-455-9612. I'll repeat that, 516-455-9612. And my email is jazzpip@aol.com. It's J as in John, A as in Apple, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, I as in nice, P as in Paul at AOL.com. And by the way, the significance of that, and before we end this, is it's the first half of the names of two of my pets who have passed on. That's another very much a component in my life. Pets, animals, and animal causes. So that's a remembrance of them every day. So, we all are the compilation of those that we've loved, those that we've lost, and those that we interact with, care about, and those that we're still yet to meet. And I think that's part of being the human experience.
Well said.
Wow, that was
Well said,
really
Vicki.
amazing, Vicki. Thank you so much for bringing that into the conversation today.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing such personal
Yeah,
situations and loss, just extensive loss.
And to my brothers, Larry and Richard, we're here thinking about you. We love you.
Yeah. Susan and I also do other things besides this video channel. I have 2 books in memory of my husband who died of pancreatic cancer 12 years ago, to be exact. I know you remember that, Vicki. And all the money goes to the Lustgarten Foundation, which is 100% monies to the eventual cure of pancreatic cancer. Both books are on www.familiesmoveon.com or amazon.com. And Susan, you've got some books too, I know.
yeah, there's 2 books on Amazon. You can just search my name, Susan Caperso. Coming Full Circle is 100 tools, tips, and ideas to bring in the end of your life as you get a terminal diagnosis. And the other one is Remember Me, the Story of My Life, which helps you with prompts to get started on your own journey to leave your stories and memories. Lisa and I also have a course on eastend.academy. Take a look at the few courses that are on there regarding end of life, before, during, and after. And also, I just wanted to mention, I'm working a lot with clients on this, The Story of Me book, which I put together, filled with photos and texts. And it's just one of these quality, heavy books, like the wedding books now. The pages are like cardboard, so you don't have to worry about them ripping, and with future generations looking through them. And it's really a beautiful treasure to leave for future generations that you may not get a chance to meet. But if you take a look on my website, eastendulacare.com, there's a whole page. It's a series of books now, because many people have been inquiring about leaving different things for different people for different reasons. And they're all niche themes that you might not have thought of before. And it's take a look. I think you'll find it very interesting. So
And in our spare time, Susan and I also do celebrations of life. We will help you try and find something meaningful and something that really celebrates that person, and something that really reflects who they were to you and your family. So it is a celebration of life.
And that's on a page. I have that on the website as well, eastendulacare.com. And that'll tell you more about the life celebrations that we do.
The reflection here is that the 3 of us are amazing people who really want to help others and have given ourselves to our careers and to our personal passions. And I have to pat 3 of us on the backs for that. We really do care about other people. And about helping them and aiding them in very difficult times in their lives. And not everybody's available to do that. So, and we don't always give ourselves credit for that. So
that's appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. And Vicki, we can't thank you enough for being here with us today and sharing such personal thoughts and your situation. Our heart goes out to you and the rest of your family.
Thank you.
For everything you've gone through.
Thank you for this opportunity. And, I really appreciate your kindness, your sincerity, and your support. Thank you.
You take good care. All right.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Okay. Bye.